Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
I am going to be a apologist right now.
Tell me. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Nerd on the Podcast. You didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. And today we got a really special, cool episode. I feel like we keep saying special episode and all of them are special. So it's like, we got another special. It's like, okay, all of them are they're just episodes. Enough about that. You might be only hearing one voice, which is true, because it's me, Tom. One of your hosts, the only host technically tonight for the Nerd On feed, but we'll be joined by another host from another podcast, because today we're going to be talking about Raised by Wolves. And I want to talk a little bit about this because I don't normally get a chance to just go off the deep end, no cap, you know what I'm saying, about something I love. And Raised by Wolves is a show on HBO Max, which you'll hear so much about in the episode. And it hit right kind of in the middle of the quarantine. And so it was kind of like my saving grace, and it really held me together of like something to look forward to amongst all the bleakness and the terrible news that you would be reading and seeing every day. And it's a sci-fi. It's a hard sci-fi, which I don't think we've done quite enough of. There's definitely some handful of good things we've done on the show, but this one just tickled me in such a way which made my pants so tight. But before we get too far into it, let's talk about our wonderful sponsors, partners of the show. This episode is proudly partnered and brought to you by the wonderful people of the Nerd On Nation, powered by Patreon. Now, if you are brand new to what Patreon is or podcasts and all that stuff, so there are multiple ways where you can support your creators, which is to rate and to subscribe and to share the stuff. But if you want to try to put a little bit of some dough in the pockets to make sure that we can grow up and be the best podcast we can be with like better technologies or allowing us to do more episodes, Patreon is like a one-stop, here it is. You go straight to the creators. There are different tiers, $1, $3, or $5 and $8 tier. And the wonderful thing about it that you get with being part of the Nerd On Nation is you get a specific specific channels on the Discord, which we have open to everyone, but these specific ones are directly related to our shows, and you get featured onto our shows when you be part of the Guess That Grump segment, our Nerd On Update, asking us questions. You get pushed in the front of the line with their Nerd On Nudge, but you also get to listen to episodes that have never been heard. So if you want us to hear about like what we thought about the coronavirus, situation, if you wanted to hear like what new projects that we're working on outside of Nerd On, if you wanted to hear about like updates that were going on within the podcast of like graphical updates or new merchandise, like we do podcast episodes that aren't typically about like, a Marvel movie or a DC movie or, the next thing on Netflix. It's really a good time for all of us, and it's a chance for you guys to listen to us talk about something that's not particularly something that you read on, Hollywood Deadline and Variety and all that stuff. So another proud partner of the podcast is Apogee and Odyssey. Apogee is what I'm recording this podcast with on this microphone. It's a wonderful, compact hype mic, which gets you a good case, a little tripod. It's wonderful. It's great for, as you can hear, podcasting. It's great for recording video essays if you're into that. It's really great for gaming if you need to play with some friends. I know a lot of good Twitch streamers that use this. If you're a voice actor and you want to kind of up your game, just have some better compression when you're sending out those self-tapes, this mic is dope. I really recommend it. The people at Apogee have treated us so well. We did our live show there. It was our first ever live show. I really highly recommend everyone just checking out Apogee. Their mics are awesome, and they're great for everyone at any level. If you're just starting out, if you're a big professional, you already have a podcast of your own, welcome, because I know a good lot of podcast creators actually listen to the show, which is really, really cool. And also Odyssey, which are the headphones. If you are not watching us on YouTube, then you could see that I'm wearing it. You would be able to see that I'm wearing it. These are open back headphones. I keep thinking of open back headphones. These are LCD ones. And they got also another great carrying case with it, which makes it easy to carry around, but also really comfortable. I talk a lot of jokes, and we do if your ears were mouths, it would taste like butter. But I really do want to harken back to our boy Ali, because we actually looked for headphones for a very long time. And we were trying to find which ones would fit really well, which would have the good audio quality for us to be able to do the show. But, he literally was like, these don't feel comfortable. They hurt my head, So we went through different headphones, and these were the ones. These these Odyssey headphones was the one that we went with. And I can't recommend them enough. I mean, I use them every day when I'm talking to my friends on Discord, when I'm on FaceTime with my parents. Everyone always makes fun of me, like, Tom, you got the whole podcast set up at house. I'm like, because I have to. But it doesn't mean that my experience talking to people and also hearing them and connecting with people isn't the best that it could be. But yeah, so I really kind of already introduced what we're talking about with it. So we got Josh from What's Up Fandom podcast. We already did a couple episodes with him before. And he's a really great guy, and you'll hear how this episode came to be later on. But until then, everyone, you'll hear it in just moments from now. But enjoy, and welcome to Josh from What's Up Fandom, and we're talking about Raised by Wolves.
Dude, Tom, it's been a hot minute. I think the last thing that we did was, I think Jason and I talked making movies and shows and stuff. I think
we talked about our 5 favorite films or some of that. I just remember, look, we all know the best moment was Shanghai Moon.
Shanghai Moon, yes.
Yeah. So, that was just...
I don't know. I think my K-drama was pretty up there, but I mean, Shanghai Moon is definitely... of the movies, it was definitely Shanghai Moon.
Yes. But the K-drama, we had to give love to the K-drama. But I'm really excited to be on the show or doing this episode because, even during all the shutdown and everything like that, there every once in a while is a magical star that comes across the sky and says, do you want to do this episode too? And that was you. And, it came across with Twitter, and the marquee topic is Raised by Wolves, and I was just over the moon about it. And I was just kind of screaming into the void, like how none of my friends, none of my co-hosts of Nerd On want to do this episode. And you said, let's do an episode. And I said, a savior, someone, an answer to the void.
It's really one of those weird ones, because it's like, when I ask people, like, hey, have you watched Raised by Wolves? It's either one of two things. Like, no, I don't have HBO Max. And I'm like, just do it. Just like, I have HBO Go, but I don't have HBO Max. And I'm like, get rid of one, get the other. It's like, oh, but I have they have like a Roku or something that doesn't have HBO Max. And I'm like, browser.
Yeah, web browser.
It's like, phone. Do you have a phone?
Yeah.
Phone. And yeah, it's really sad, because I'm just like, watch this stupid show because it's really good and nobody watches it. And I'm just like, it's like Utopia.
I have not started watching Utopia though. And I heard great
it's a
things.
Film. I mean, it's a series.
Yes,
is what it is.
I heard good things about it.
Who did I had someone on the show. I don't remember who, and we talked very, very briefly about Utopia, and that was the only thing that I've been able to do on this show. Like maybe 3 minutes worth of Utopia, and that was it. And it was like, oh, bye, Utopia, it was great.
So I'm assuming it's one that I need to catch up on.
I enjoyed it, yes. I think John Cusack is amazing in it. And then there are other people there.
Okay. So, compared it to the topic we're talking about today, compared to Raised by Wolves, where are we at?
Raised by Wolves is way up here.
Okay. And that was the thing, though. So just like Josh said, if you don't have HBO Max, this is the reason to get HBO Max. Send a check, HBO, Time Warner Media. Send the check. Because, I was talking to a bunch of my friends, and the only one person who I've been able to physically see because of work, I got him to watch watch Raised by Wolves, and then it was wonderful because in this time it's hard to like everyone's binging. There's a lot of shows dropping, but they dropped 3 episodes, they dropped 2, and then another 2, and then we were able to have the water cooler conversation of like, and then this happened, and so I was like, what do you think about that? And it was enjoyable. Just in, I think also this is like the first, I think, really hard sci-fi show for 2020.
Yeah.
I think.
I
think Brave New World.
Did the Expanse come out this year? Or was that last year?
I think that was last.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah. So, and that season was a little bit more different because that was just full Amazon this time instead of being that sci-fi Amazon hybrid.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed. But yeah, this was like new sci-fi. It was a sci-fi that we've not had before.
Yeah.
We've had 3 seasons of The Expanse. We've had, Discovery and stuff like that. So we've got, the Star Treks and everything in Picard. But yeah, this one was just different. Like, it hit different.
Yeah. And I think for sure, like when I saw the trailer for it, it said directed by Ridley Scott. And I was like, oh, a show. And then it said completely original concept. And I was like, I need this. Like, I was getting a little tired out of the IP game with Legendary and everyone else just like grabbing like, oh, this has been a comic book or a book or a reboot or a show before. And then the fact of like, this is all brand new. I was like, oh my God. But then there was always, watching any type of Ridley Scott show or movie, you're kind of like, all right, when are you going to connect it back to Aliens? When are you going to connect it back to Aliens? And so there's a little bit of that writing inside. But then just seeing the trailer and then seeing Mother and what she does, I was just like, ooh, I'm going to need a couple pair of pants because
definitely. Real quick, before we really go any further, because we're going to do non-spoilery right now.
Okay.
And then we're going to go and like into some spoiler fun.
I like that. Okay.
So for the non-spoilers, who was your favorite character on the show?
Non-spoiler? Father.
Right? Father's the best character in the entire show.
We were the other person I was watching with, we were like, Father needs to be protected at all times. He needs to be preserved, and nothing could happen to him. And anytime there's a moment of like, you're just like, oh, anyone but him, please.
Right.
So,
oh man, like, and then that final episode, I was like, oh, and
that, yeah,
oof, yeah.
There's without being spoiler, there is. It has conversations of artificial intelligence, and it just what true sci-fi.
Sorry, go ahead.
What true sci-fi, I feel like it attempts to do is create conversations around human condition and our experiences via the genre. So, like, could we live in another planet, and is artificial intelligence really a viable thing? And is finding life on other planets, or what is the purpose of language, like an Arrival? If we live our lives and make bad decisions, are we still truly living our lives in its fullest? Knowing the outcome of everything. So those are those kind of things I just loved about the show.
Yeah, and we only we got 10 episodes, which is nice. I did my last episode. I had forgot that I had only watched one of the 2 episodes. So, like, I got 3 episodes for my last, and I was like, yay! I was really excited. So there was a good, nice little, like, 2.5 hour little marathon for me. It was like basically watching one nice big movie, and I really like that. But no, yeah, like, Father, I definitely my favorite of the characters. Whenever he was on screen, like, and because I guess really not spoiler because it's in all of the marketing materials for it.
So it's following the Twitter. Yeah,
like, well, IMDb. I love IMDb's synopsis of the series. Androids are tasked with raising human children on a mysterious planet. While not wrong, there's a lot not there.
Yeah.
And even HBO Max's too. It's very like, from executive producer Ridley Scott, Raised by Wolves centers on 2 androids tasked with raising human children on a mysterious virgin planet. As the burgeoning colony of humans threatens to be torn apart by religious differences, the androids learn that controlling the beliefs of humans is a treacherous and dangerous task. I don't know why it turned.
I love
there.
that read.
It's like bum 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 bum, and then coming soon to ABC Family. You know, I would love an ABC Family version of April.
Just a multicam sitcom with the couch in the middle. They're always looking at the TV at the end of the episode. I'd be about it.
It'd be kind of like a Married with Children.
Yes.
Like when Marcus and Sue come over, they would like come in.
And then just clapping, and then it's like that, and then it always has a push in. Yeah. But I will say the hard second is it's hard not to be Mother. Like,
yeah.
I absolutely loved Mother, and I didn't expect me to have such a visceral, like, I guess, compassion for the character. And you know, father and mother play these two parts of, you know, family dynamics, and it's the version about it, and a little bit of a modern conversation about, you know, who is more capable and the placement that you have within the family. That it's great, but for obviously reasons, it's like father has so much more humanity that we see from the get that we you know, audiences just enjoy, that I loved.
I mean, any cool android that wants to tell you like stupid dad jokes is like the best. And then I think my third favorite character is going to come out of left field. May have been Mouse.
Oh, okay.
I loved Mouse.
I mean, is this? There's a little spoilery thing. I was like, I have to ask, what kind of mouse?
Oh, I like OG Mouse.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
this is hard, by the way. This is hard. Not.
It's very hard. Okay, so if you were to, sure. If you're going like we'll give it a report card rank, where would you put Raised by Wolves? Like, what would you report card it?
A solid A. Like, I've been kind of talking about like how the streaming services are coming out, right? And so the streaming wars began in, you know, middle to late 2019. Disney Plus came in swinging with Mandalorian, and, you know, Apple TV.
And then nothing else.
Yeah, and so and Apple TV came out with like the morning show and the space show that I forget that my friend worked on, but it looks great. But and Amazon, you know, had been coming out. It's like, hey, we just drop it. We're not really trying to fight because we don't need to. We make our billions elsewhere. And HBO was, everyone's kind of like, I don't know. And same thing with Netflix. But I felt like HBO kind of really kicked up the speed with just like the original content. Like Watchmen came out, and then, you know, Raised by Wolves was announced, and then Lovecraft Country. Yeah. And so it's just like, I feel like it just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting. And, you know, you could chuck all of them into a crowd and someone's going to catch one of them and love it. Where, you know, the Disney model is a little bit more of like, everyone has to love Mandalorian or it won't be successful.
Yeah.
Where like HBO Max is like, toss 5 shows and then we'll get the majority. So it's very interesting to see that. But I feel like in 2020, my favorite show this year is probably Raised by Wolves. Like in 2019, it was Watchmen. And yeah. And
I'm right there with you. I mean, Mandalorian is going to have to be damn good in order for it to even come close to Raised by Wolves. Same thing with like Star Trek too. Like I'm in this Discovery kick right now, so I'm like binging all of it. Trying to. I made the mistake of watching it with one of my friends, and she's slow, so we're like stuck on this like episode, and I'm like, can we go? Can we continue? He's like, oh, not tonight. I'm like, great.
And I see a thing with, you know, just for the listeners, so it's not like we're comparing, you know, apples and oranges, but the thing is like the show's greatness or the level of grade that we arbitrarily give these shows, like Mandalorian, you know, being part of the Star Wars proper, the real, I think, challenge for me that I look forward to, of like, if it's going to be a great show, is like, how well does it live within the Star Wars fantasy lore that it's established or lives in? And then I guess something with Star Trek Discovery is like, how well are the characters going to develop? And by the end of the season, are they going to kind of feel like they progressed in such a way where Raised by Wolves was kind of like, it's the first season, and in the same way like Ex Machina, where it just controls the level of information you get, but allowing you to feel like it's a mystery with characters that know more than you, but also don't know as much as you. And you're learning more about, you know, the religious aspects of it, the planet, history, all these things. And you're just asking yourself questions of like, what if we were in those situations? But also, the nuclear drama of like, okay, what's happening to these characters and how are they going to evolve from this point to another point.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's Raised by Wolves just exceeded so many expectations, and I was just like, I was never really upset with like, oh, it gave me more questions and answers.
See, that was what I liked about it. Like, because like when it did give you a question, it wasn't that long before you got a relative answer to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, there are some shows where it's like, you'll get like a question in like episode 2 that you won't hear from the rest of the time. And you'll just be like, well, what happened to that? How did that happen? Or maybe that's a season 2 thing. But like, yeah, like Raised by Wolves is really good about like, we're going to, answer these along the way. And it's definitely a series that didn't feel rushed either.
Yeah.
That's why I'm also going to give it like a very strong A. Not an A+, because always room for improvement.
Exactly.
Not an A-.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was just really good. Like the acting, superb.
Oh, my goodness.
Like everybody in that show, like there are children in this show. There are adults in this show, and throughout, I was thoroughly impressed with everybody. I want that cool bubble igloo thing. Like I want to live in that. Like that's what I want to live in. I think that would be really fun. So from here on out, we're gonna go spoiler heavy.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank Soul. Thanks Soul.
Praise be to Soul.
Praise be to Soul.
We're gonna talk spoilers now. So if you haven't watched it, why? Just get your HBO subscription. I'll put a link to Raised by Wolves in the show notes where you can get an HBO subscription. Like, I think, don't you get like 7 free days or something like that?
Yeah, trial period. But also, I feel like when HBO Max was launching, HBO was like, okay, if you got, HBO Go or HBO Now, just, go on now, and then we'll just give you the, first year.
Yeah, you just like roll it into it.
And then you start paying the higher premium, whatever it was going to be after the year. I was like, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I don't know about you, but like when I bought it, I ended up getting like some like it was like a 13-month deal or something where it was only like $60 for 13 months. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. That's ridiculously cheap. Purchase.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I was already kind of, stepping aside from Raised by Wolves for a second, I was a little intrigued by Anna Kendrick's show, Love Life, because like one, she had a show on Quibi, or she had another show on Amazon. I was like, how many shows is she in? Because she also had like a movie with like, I think, was it Bill Hader on Disney Plus? And it was like she was Santa Claus kid.
She was like Santa Claus or something.
Yeah, and I was like, she did so much streaming work. My goodness. But I was just like, all right, let's see how this goes. And I enjoyed that quite as well as much. So
unfortunately, I don't think that Quibi show is going to get a second season. Much like Quibi, I don't think it's going to get a second year. That's
actually quite interesting to think about too, just because like, where did the properties go? Because they had Reno 911. They had like big title things. And I was like,
somebody's got Reno 911 now. I think it's HBO Max. I think they gobbled it up.
Well, I mean, because HBO Max has Comedy Central, so I felt
maybe they just like it just reverted back to Comedy Central, and it's ours now.
It'll be definitely interesting. But so no spoilers.
No spoilers.
What was your favorite part? What was your favorite part of the whole show?
I love the religious elements.
Yes.
Just because, like, when I first heard that they were talking about Mithraic, and I was like, wait a sec, my Religions of the World class back in freshman year of college is coming back to me. I'm
nice.
Like, Mithraic, that's like Mithraism. That's a weird Roman cult. And I just like started going down this thing, and the more stuff that they were showing about Mithraism, and I was like, yeah, that's very, very good. Like the fact, like when she comes back with the, because like there was part of me that was like, I wonder if they're going to bring this back to like Rome. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, this is Romulus's tooth, and I was like, yes, perfect.
I didn't even know that. That's deep cut.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. And then it got me on this whole. I bought a book and I read a book about.
After the fact.
After the fact, yeah. About the Mithraic mysteries and everything. Because it's actually, Mithras is a Zoroastrian. He's in Zoroastrianism. He's a Zoroastrian god. he's like one of their principal deities. And he, like, the cult, there's not a lot known about them because the only, like, really none of their, like, scriptures or anything, like, survived. The only thing that's pretty much here is, like, reliefs and sculptures. But the book that I was reading, it was a very up and coming and really popular religion in
at the time.
In like the 2nd century in the Roman Empire. And there happened to be this other also small religion that was rising in the Roman Empire called Christianity at the same time. And they were like butting heads. Like there were parts of Mithraism that were taking like stuff from like the baptisms and everything from Christianity. And then Christianity was taking things from Mithraism, and they were just kind of doing this whole little thing. But then
it was original Marvel versus DC.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then, you have, the 4th century Constantine comes over and is like, hey, the new religion of Rome is Christianity. And so it kind of like disappears. But he was saying like, if Constantine hadn't done that, there is a possibility that Mithraism could be the Christianity of today. And I feel like that's what they do, just because they're basically like butting heads this entire time, and then one of them kind of just gets outlawed. So it's like, oh, well, all the support goes away from this one, and this one rises to the top. Whereas if it would have been different, and this one would have risen to the top, we would have had Mithraism today. So I think that's what they were doing in this alternate reality of Earth and everything. It's like the Mithraic mysteries actually rises to power instead of Christianity. So the world does come to an end because of everything, because it's definitely more of a different religion. But they do so many things in this, like the, when they go to the rock, the big, like,
the dodecahedron rock. Yeah.
They go to that. That's actually part of Mithras' origin, where he is birthed from a rock.
Does anyone stick their hand in that rock?
I don't remember, but he does come out wielding a sword or a knife and a torch. So like that's how he comes out into the world. And I'm like, that's pretty good. You guys are giving us this whole thing. Maybe this is where somebody is going to come out of this. And
and I mean it's highly resemblant of the creature or other android that's in the other smaller dodecahedron that Mother starts having visions of, and also spewing out white liquid, and has like a giant mouth gaping thing, so probably birth. So it's like, that's the thing that I really love, is that there is such a wonderful kind of like garden variety salad melody going on, where like they play, one of my favorite things is kind of a little bit what you said of just the religion aspect, because it plays with the atheism aspect, and it asks these questions of, does belief come from absence of religion, or do we create belief? And, with Campion number 2, Campion the second, kind of starting to believe in something that he's never been really taught formally, but just wanting to believe in a higher power, like asking those humanistic questions, like I loved. Did you watch or did you listen to the Raised by Wolves podcast?
No, I didn't listen to it. I didn't know that was a thing, because I would always like end it because I wasn't ever paying attention. When they would do like those Game of Thrones podcasts and stuff like that. There would be some that I would listen to, but I wouldn't listen to like the official HBO one. I would listen to like Cast of Kings or something like that, or like Binge Mode or something. Those are what I would listen to. So like whenever they were like, listen to like the whatever, I would just be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Knowing full well that I'm not going to listen to that one. I'm going to listen to another podcast on it. So I have not listened to that one yet. Like I knew that it was a thing. I just put it out of my mind. And now that it's done, I feel like I should go back and actually listen to all of those.
I work in a warehouse, and I'm typically by myself, so I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. And that was one that like I would listen to after every episode that would drop. And the cool thing which you just did was actually like very, that book, obviously you got your money's worth, because they brought in someone who knew about Mithraism, and that was really cool. So I was like, that was like Everyone listening right now, Josh is 100% right.
Dude, that was my thing. Like in my major was history. So I'm like, one of the best parts about history is all of the different religions, because that like really creates the history. Like there's wars that are fought because of religion, and that is a big part of history. Exactly. Like countries rise and fall depending on which religion that they, adhere to. And so like when I heard that, I was like, oh boy. So like the little Joshies were tingling in my head, and I was like, oh, I'm ready for this. This is going to be good stuff. So I think like maybe like episode 5 is when I actually ordered the book. And then when everything finally finished, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this book now.
Is episode 5 when they start seeing the flashbacks?
Yeah, that's when the flashbacks and everything start happening. And I was like, oh, no. Like it was, oh man. And like all the flashback scenes, because usually I'm not a fan of flashback scenes. I feel this
did so well.
It did so well. They blend so well with everything. I loved Marcus and Sue at the beginning until Marcus becomes like an ass.
I mean, he's starting to become religious.
Yes.
Like, and I'm not hating on religion, everyone out there. Like, your beliefs are
we're going to talk about religion in the context of this show.
Yes.
Not current world religions. We're going to talk about religion in so the only religion that exists in this podcast is Mithraism.
And then the atheists. And
the atheists.
I mean, the thing I really enjoyed about this was that like typically media shows religion as like, oh, they're, almost kind of like extremist Amish, where like no modern medicine, no science, no blah, blah, just belief. Where the Mithraic in this show helped develop the necromancer. They developed the arcs, and they're like, the atheists don't have this technology. And it's like, I ate that up, and I was like, this is really cool. Because I'm not typically very theistic to begin with. And so when I see religion done really well and not shown as pure evil or pure good, but it's shown as like, oh, it's a powerful force, which historically is always very true. Whether it's used for good or bad, it's powerful and it's compelling, and there's no denying its presence on Earth, and so, or in the planets, wherever it is. And so just like the idea that, Mother, who comes from the Mithraic as this weapon of mass destruction, and then turned into this weapon of mass, like, nurturing, like is supposed to lead and help, raise the future of the humankind. And I'm just like, that's such a wonderful subversion of like how we imagine what our nuclear bombs do or other weapons of mass destruction that we currently have in our current time, and turning it into something more humanistic. Like one of my favorite episodes is definitely the pilot, just because you see everything happen. It sells you on all as much as it can. And then afterwards, I will say there's something that got me really, really sad, was just not seeing enough Mother T-pose flying and just exploding people. I needed a little bit more of that. And I'm just like, well, you can't have her just be, just easy button all day.
Yeah.
So.
I'm what I wanted a little bit more of was the way that the religion works in the ship. Like I wanted to see more of the ship. We see the ship for like 3 scenes, I think, total of the ship. And I'm kind of like, I wish I would have seen a little bit more of the ship.
Like what happens in the sim?
Yeah. Like, or not even in the sim, like when Mother actually goes into the ship, we see her blow up the bridge basically. And then her go into the kid area, like the daycare station. And those are like really the 2 places that we see on the ship. When we're in the memories, there's some corridors and like a little like weird place where they put the kids, which was kind of bizarre. And I was like, what is this random like atrium that all the kids are just like in?
And then they got the pods.
Yeah, and like it was weird because I was like, I would like to know a little bit more about what's going on here, which maybe is what we're going to happen, because it does lead into these are not the only, humans that are left on, like that are left. Like we see like in the last episode, it's like there's another, ship, and maybe we get to do a little bit more on that ship. And hopefully I'm hoping it's not, because like these guys weren't all dressed like,
those are atheists.
Were they all atheists?
Yeah.
Oh,
when Marcus
so it's
goes to
like-
that camp, it's atheists.
Oh, see, that didn't even register to me. I just thought they were like maybe not as devout.
Exactly. That's what I thought too. I was like, oh, some other Mithraic, because you don't, and that's again, the show does such a good, like to your point, it answers a question relatively. So it's like,
Yeah.
are there more humans? Yes, but not Mithraic. And you're like, oh my, it's like, but I thought atheists didn't have an arc. They didn't have, and it's like,
Exactly. It's like I thought all
apparently
the atheists died on Earth, and like the only atheist human that is left is Cambion, and
that's the
later
thing-
the other two.
what the show does really well too is it always asks you that question. It's like, well, why wouldn't it? So it's like, why would Marcus and Sue be the only atheists that survived from Earth?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, what are these things that look like human? Well, why wouldn't they be human? You're like, oh my God, stop. Like, okay, what is this, monster, this thing that, mother's going to birth into the world? It's like, well, why wouldn't it be an alien? You're like, oh my God. Like, it does that so well where it's like, well, here it is. And like, obviously we got to talk a little bit about the ending of the season with just the utter amount of symbolism of like, a sperm going into an egg, landing on the tropical zone with mother and father, with the snake, Garden of Eden. The episode's name is like Beginning. Like, there's so much.
I think, is it in the beginning or is it just the beginning?
I think it's in the beginning.
Oh, see, beautiful. That's a great way to. I don't know why I'm checking my phone. I have it up here.
And that's the thing. I hate how intelligent the show is, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to be smarter than you. It's just trying to say, like, this is what I have planned out. Like, I think, and not to, tit for tat compare sci-fis and sci-fi, but I had one of my friends tell me about how, like, oh, Tom, you're going to love Westworld because you think you're going to understand it and then you realize how much smarter than it is. And I'm like, nah, not really. I got it. I understood most of it. But then this show, like, it doesn't feel like it's trying to wag its finger at you saying like, oh, you thought this, but it just feels like you're on this lovely surprise game. And like the human dynamics, like seeing Sue, her character develop, I thought she was going to be like the most sticklery one, like a stick in the mud, but you realize like, oh, she just wants to survive. And that mother instincts coming in and the moment between her and mother in the cave and how you find out, it's so
of the
good.
humans, Sue is my favorite human. I mean, because Cambion, he's kind of. There are times where I'm just like, slap him. Just somebody slap the damn kid. He needs something. But
people who are familiar with listening to me on Nerd On are familiar that I hate kids typically in media because they're written like as if they're like walking like distractions, walking like they're gonna go right into the hole. Like, and I liked how they did that in the first episode with I forget her name, the first girl who goes missing. And she goes into one of the holes and we don't see her till way later. And it's pretty much like an apparition. But it's, to me, that makes so much more sense that they're on a foreign planet. These androids don't really know how to take care of humans. And so 6 humans pass away and then only one is left, which is Campion. But even Campion at a very young age, like he has no sense of social understanding other than mother and father. So he doesn't know how to have peer relations. He doesn't know how to like soothe like other kids or himself when he's come across conflict, where other kids written in other stories. And the one that I always go back to is Kindergarten Cop. I just hated the actions that the main kid did. I was like, why are you doing this? Like, didn't your mom ever teach you like not to open doors for strangers or all that stuff? But Campion, I liked his rebellion. I liked how he saw the error of his ways, and there was this sense of like, you will be the new leader of people, and he rejects it, and then he has to learn to accept it. Like, it does so much in 10 episodes that I feel like a lot of shows don't do within like 3 seasons.
Yeah. It's Tally.
Tally. Yeah. Oh.
Which is weird because they're always constantly like yelling Tally whenever they see. That's another thing that like I hate when this happens in shows where when somebody sees something, they never talk about it.
Yeah.
Like
true.
Father literally sees Tally run away and he's like, was that Tally? And then it's like Mother's like, what happened, Father? And he's like, and you're just like, Just tell her that you may have seen Tally. And
communication.
And then she sees Tally. And then it's just like, what's wrong, mother? And she's like, nothing, father. And you're like, to talk to each other. Come on. And then like Cambion sees her like 19 times. And then he's like, oh yeah, it's crazy. And you're like, somebody mentioned that you guys have seen Tally. Like, I think Paul sees Tally. Tempest sees Tally. All these people see this girl and nobody says a word. And I'm just like, things would be so much easier if you guys just said, like, hey, I saw a person. Let's leave. Or something.
There is a running rumor that Tally, what we see after she falls into the pit, is actually the embodiment of the voice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I also don't think for an instant... I think that Tally is... Like, the voice is the one that impregnates Mother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, like, Tally leads Mother to the pod.
Yeah.
And then, like, everything's all glitchy and everything, and she's literally not moving for long periods of time. And it's like, yeah, that something has to be going on here. Like, there's something special. But it's weird, because, like, why does Tally want Cambion to kill himself?
And that's the thing where it's like the voice found its way into Marcus and also into Paul.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. You would think it'd follow just the Mithraic people who are, devout, but then somehow it finds Mother, it finds Father. And so it's like, it doesn't really need necessarily like human, flesh and blood to speak to. And even the guy with the metal bucket thing. And so it's like, it's asking that question of like, is the voice, are we going to get the Mithraic explanation that this figure, this entity, this presence is malicious, or is it benevolent, or malevolent, or benevolent? And so you're like, I don't know. And that's the thing where it's like, who knows? Because I think it saved Marcus for sure. And like at the point where us audience, we wanted Marcus to survive. We wanted him and Sue to get to Paul and just not kill Mother and Father and the rest of the people. But then, you know what? You can't have drama if you don't have, but then he becomes religious. Or like, however, then he believes he's now the new, king of the world. So it's crazy to think. And like, it also like, I mean, just like the snake, like, and how it grows, it's this eel thing, but it flies. Like when Mother was talking about like, or Father was like, we'll kill it. We'll throw it down the hole. And she's like, it flies. And then I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's just like, oh man. I do like how their plan was, let's go through the center of the earth. And then it's just like, oh, we came back out. And it's like, oh yeah, that may have happened. I mean, there are lots of holes.
And I'm thinking, and I don't know if it's 100% confirmed from the writer or not, but like what Mother gave birth to is kind of like a new version of like the serpents that they find on Kepler 22b.
Yeah, because this is going to have human blood
with android
mixed in with whatever
the voices.
So it's, I mean, there's probably a little bit of Blake Shelton in there. We don't know. It's going to be really interesting. Yeah, like that's like there are two people that I felt bad for, like of the children, because Cambion, to me, I was like, Cambion can take it or leave it. I don't particularly care. I'm really confused on why he has an English accent and nobody else speaks in an English accent.
His father kind of has an English accent, right?
Barely,
yeah.
Barely.
But Campion's is really hard.
Yes. He's like, father. And it's like, yeah.
Campion. Yeah.
It's bizarre, but yeah, that he was weird to me. But anyway, a great acting. But like, I felt bad for Paul, and I felt the worst for Tempest.
Tempest, for sure. She had to like make her way, and like she didn't want the baby. She literally got raped. It's like
she gets raped in cryo sleep, and a baby is impregnated in her, and she just wants it gone. And nobody will let her get rid of this baby.
Well, and it's not even just a rape. All rape is, fucking terrible. It's terrible. But like it's
PG-13,
from like a high,
you get the one.
It's yeah, exactly. And it's but it's from like a high priest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh my goodness.
And she's
like,
like 14?
Yeah. And so when she looks back of what religion did for her, it was take away, her freedom and her security and, comfortability within her own skin. And, beyond the religious Mithraic people who are just like, it's a good thing, blah, blah, blah. Forget about it. Mum's the word. Mother and the atheists are like, but we need to make sure that humankind survives. So you're going to keep that baby. It's like, oh, like it's such a bad time for her. Paul, he can go jump off one of those cliffs.
I am going to be a Paul apologist right now.
Tell me.
So here's my thing with Paul. Poor Paul. First off, his parents murdered.
Okay, I'll let you talk your case.
Second, Paul, he meets new parents who are actually nice to him. So he finally has parents that actually care and love him. Then he has Mouse, fun, gets abducted from the parents. Parents finally find him and he's happy. And then Dad is kind of a little bit weird now, but still loves Mom. So does what he can to, even though likes Cambion and I guess likes the other kids and is starting to like Mother and Father, still wants to be with his parents. So we have all of this thing that's going on. So the kid's got like this weird, like, what's going on with him. Kid may be the chosen one for all we know. Who knows? There's like 17 chosen ones in this damn show. Sure. So then he goes and he gets led astray by the voice, which is really leading most everybody that listens to it astray. Exactly. There's not a single person really who's like
takes you, uses you, tosses you.
Yes, and he is now the latest victim. And unfortunately, finds out that the person who he loved has been lying to him this entire time. Killed his original parents. So when he does shoot her, I'm kind of like, oh, that's not good. Like I was like, the kid, I'm ready for a Paul Demption arc in season 2. I want that to happen. Counter me.
So I grew up as a child of divorce. And so having two Christmases, having to go to different houses was normal to me. And I could imagine how it would be for other people who are like, what do you mean your parents split up? And what do you mean blah, blah? I was like, yeah, that's just normal. Whatever, we get over it. For this child, Paul, most of his life has been away from his actual parents. And so he says, like you said, like his new parents, like the mother actually, you never talked to me. And I was like, oh my God, like these are terrible people. But then you got these atheists who are like, we have to protect this child. Like they have that compassion in that heart. And
they do also spend 22 years with him.
Exactly. So they spent more time with him than anything else. So it's just like, to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, it might be a lie, but also that those are your parents. Like they raised you. You built a relationship with them. So it didn't matter how they look like. They could have looked like, the original actors that played them. And it shouldn't make a difference because the emotion and feeling and development actually happened. For me, that's just how I look at it. And then also like when he's with the rest of the surviving children at the wolf den, he's just a conniving little punk. He's like, take the eyeball and do this thing. I'm like,
because his father told him to take the eyeball. The father that he now loves, who has done a complete 180 in personality and cares about him, that he spent 22 years with.
But he also started like sowing seeds of doubt within Cambion. Like, and it's just like he plays a little bit of that part.
He's just a good Mithraic child. He's spreading the seeds and trying to convert more people. He's really the first on this new planet Mithraic missionary.
Exactly. And that's the thing where it's like, I find like that's the irritating thing of what, religion plays out in media, where it's just like, it's kind of like, you never have to ask a vegan if they're vegan because they'll tell you anyways. That whole like, okay, I get it. You're Mithraic. Just take off your necklace. You're in here. No one's coming to save you. And like mother and father are like, yo, we just trying to help you out. And we're trying to teach you science. And we're trying to teach you how to defend yourself. Like, what's Saul going to do? It's like, ain't going to do nothing for y'all. But it does something for Paul.
And he does learn how to defend himself. He makes a dope trap. And then the one kid that he was like, hey, let's be friends, then punches him because he makes a cool trap to kill the things for food. That was like, I was like, so that's why I was kind of like, I feel bad for Paul just because there are instances for him where
you can empathize.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing. Cause like I was trying to pick a human character in this group that was with the androids that I cared about. And it was it was originally Tempest, but then she's like disappears for half the time. They like keep her in a hole, like keep her away from all the other kids, so she doesn't do anything with anybody else. So I was like, well, it's got to be Paul now. So I tried to go with Paul because I just couldn't with Campion. I tried and I was like, I can't do this kid.
I like Campion because I feel like he's a little like, I think I related to that. So there's a little bit of roasted in glasses for sure of like, here's a new kid. He's got bright blonde hair. It's a little bit more coiffed. My shit's all greasy. And it's like, he's better. He's a little smarter. He's able to find things. I want to be his friend, but somehow he keeps getting the affection of other people that I want. And I'm like, I feel like my parents told me I was the chosen one, but all of a sudden, like, he hears the voice and he has the cool toy of Mouse, and also like someone talks to him. And then Campion's just like, I thought I was special. And then apparently he's not. And I think that's the very human lesson to learn. It's like everyone is quote unquote special in their own way. But like there was that sense, like, I really kind of almost love the idea of like, what if Campion became the really religious one and Paul's the one that loses his religion?
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm kind of hoping for Paul in the second season to, during his, what did I call it?
Paul Demption.
During the Paul Demption, I want him to like be like, you know what? Wait a sec. You're supposed to be Saul, but you've steered me away from everything. I'm going to go back to, my mom, and you know that's what happens. So maybe we get new little atheist Paul, and then Campion. I don't know. The kids are being weird. Who knows what's going to happen there?
I mean, for me, I think we'll get a Campionaissance. I could do that. I'm sorry.
I was thinking when we talked about when I said Mithraic missionary, I was like, Mithrationary.
But I feel like Campion is a little, he's a little JC. He's a little Jesus Christ, a little John Constantine, where he's got to have a moment where he's going to start thinking like in his older adolescence, I guess, where he's like a teenager and starts having funny feelings about, bodily fluids, to start thinking like maybe religion isn't the bad way, because we can, like, belief gives you a little bit of a strength. You can fight a little bit harder when you believe in something that's not really tangible. And I think there is a really wonderful dance that they can play between Paul and Campion of like, they both are trying to find what Saul is to them and what it means to be just human and have your own freedoms. Like there was a moment that I was really kind of hoping, like when, the mother of Paul was talking to him and saying like, those aren't voices, that's just your dad, you said all these things and those aren't real. And he kind of like, he says yes. And I was like, oh. But then he comes out of nowhere and he knows everything. The voice told him, it's like, you're not my real mom. I read these like metal tarot cards. I'm like, excuse, like, and I was like, what is, how? And it's such a good, like, okay, well, he knows. And so it kind of doesn't matter how he knows, but he knows. And this is what he's done because he knows. And I think it would be long, like end game to where, I think it would be really interesting, like mother is trying to raise these children as atheists, and then Campion, I don't know, creates Campolithism or something, and he becomes this new, religious leader, and then Paul is now an atheist, and so you basically have like. Because, I mean, it's just how humans are. We're going to go full circle on it. Mm-hmm. So we just go full circle on this new planet in the exact same way, but it's just everything was switched just enough. Because it's like a Cain and Abel situation. Exactly.
Because Campion is basically Cain and Abel
Paul.
is Paul. So, or Paul is Abel. Or, you know,
Paul is Abel.
or maybe,
he is able
or
to shoot
maybe
people.
you have two, you know, different religions. You have Catholicism and then
And McCarthyism.
I was thinking Paulistantism.
Okay.
I don't
works.
know. I've tried to do something there. It's just fun. I love these puns now. So yeah, I think, you know, we could do some cool stuff with that. It'll be interesting to see what they do season 2. I'm glad that it is getting a season 2. I'm glad that it's not a one on done like half the Netflix shows nowadays.
Yeah, which is quite sad if you think about it. Like for me, I think the quantity is kind of nice. It does make, you know, competition a little harder, but like people are wanting more original new stuff, and you know, who are we to say no more? But there's two things I want to make sure we talk about is, dad could eat or father can eat stuff and be like, radioactive, not radioactive, has sustenance, nutrient. I was like, oh my God, that's...
It's
I don't
like,
know.
What was that video game with the android that was on PlayStation?
There's a lot of those.
He's an android though, and it had all the people in it.
Mega Man.
No. Oh shoot.
Metal Gear Solid. Raiden.
Detroit.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, because you know how, you know, the dude Connor, I think is his name. Like he'll like touch things and he'll like put them to his mouth.
Oh yeah,
and he'll be
and
like,
then he could sense.
oh, this is a blah 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 blah, which is not sanitary. But he would do stuff like that. So when he did that, I was like, there should be zero reason why an android would not have, you know, sensors in his tongue area to, you know, simulate the human experience in order to test things like that. I thought that was really cool. Like I do like that. It was one of my favorite parts whenever they do, because like we don't really get a lot with Father, like android wise. We get a lot with Mother because she T-poses and she's a banshee. No,
It's baller.
what is it a banshee or do they call her something?
Necromancer.
She's a necromancer and it's really cool. But with Father, he's just like, yeah, I'm like your base model android, and I'm just like,
From what the creator Aaron Guzikowski said, he wanted Father to feel like he's that old school Ford model, where like it's really strong, but it's not like with all the flashy like a Tesla, where that's what Mother is, where she's got all the cool doodads. But he's like, and you see him like when he takes back the den and he's like fighting off the Mithraic. I'm like, go Father, go!
Oh, he's definitely built for tough. I mean, he is like mowing people down and like getting shot like 50 times. And then, I mean, with Mother, you know, you take her, you know, key away, and she's like, I can't work no more. I have to be regular mom. I can't go T-pose no more.
Which I mean I think is like the Superman conundrum, right? Where it's like, what do you do when you take the most powerful character and you introduce them in the first episode that they're literally indestructible? Like you can't shoot them; they will literally deflect bullets off of them. When you take away their ability, like, oh, now we're gonna really see what you're made of, and like how she gets beat up a lot, and I just feel bad at the point where it's like, oh, I feel like this is kind of like torturous, and like all these guys are misogynists. I hate them, but you know they don't see Mother as a woman in person; they see her as a necromancer weapon. You know,
I'd be interested in watching how they got them into those suits.
Oh, they paint them on.
Are they? Because I mean,
spray,
there's literally no like
seam.
There's no seams. There's nothing anywhere, and I'm just kind of like, how are you in that? Like, I'm very into, like, I'm ready for like the Blu-ray to come out so I can buy that, and hopefully that's like an extra, like how we got them in, like how we did the suits for these. But oh, dude, if I had money, like Halloween this year, or if that was a thing this year. That anyone cared about. Like, dude, dressing up as one of those Mithraic guys in the dope armor and everything, be looking dope. Like, fly. Like, I got hockey pads and stuff on, a cape. It looks super cool.
See, I would want to be one of the androids. It's so like,
that's a lot of spray paint.
I'm willing. My body is willing. I went Twitter. The Raised by Wolves Twitter was doing this like giveaway for like a Praise Soul shirt, and I was like, you got like a Praise Father shirt, or just like you got a Father Must Survive at all costs? Because in the beginning of with the pilot, when Mother like decommissions him, I was like, oh, I was so like, no, no. I was like I get it's kind of like one of those things that you do in a pilot where you kind of like just toss the world into disarray so that like the rest of the season is just drama. But then when they brought him back, it was like most relieving thing. And then when he went decommissioned again, I was like, oh God. But then with the little braille finger, thing.
That was the only time. I don't remember that kid's name when I was like,
I hated him.
You're not that bad. Like when he was like,
him.
I can figure things out. He's communicating, and then he fixes his father, and I'm like, cool. Nah, I don't care about you anymore. Then he would be, he'd be this like, oh, praise soul, we got to get out of here. To, oh man, I should help father. And then after that, it was like, oh, back to soul. And I'm like, kid, make up your mind.
That kid Hunter. Who I hated his like, because he's literally like a mansplaining.
I hate that like weird stupid mullet that they all wear. It's just terrible.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of like what I think was it Manson, or was it there's a cult leader, I forget, but everyone would have a certain hairstyle. And, like you were talking about with Mithraicism, like it's a little bit like a cult. So like, guys all have mullets. Even the women have mullets. And
it works on Sue. Everybody else, I'm kind of like, nah, let me get rid of.
Yeah, she looks like a baller.
Yeah.
And but no, I hated that kid. Like because he was like, I'm the most intelligent one here, and I was like, father, do something.
He's like, I'm the most intelligent one here. It's like, he's an android. Like he's literally an android.
Yeah, it's like he's going to know. And then I remember he starts going after him with all like it's like calculations and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to, make sure we round this out with talking about what do you think is going to happen for season 2, or what do you want the most to happen?
Man, I would like Marcus to die. Because like I was with him for so long, and then that change happened, and now I'm just kind of like, every time, like when he got attacked by the twins,
the shadow self,
and then the other guy at the end.
Okay,
And like they push him down like the hill of sand, and like the dude puts whatever it was in his mouth.
Oh, it's Mother's eye.
Oh, it was Mother's eye. And then he like blood foams.
Starts. Yeah.
I was like, okay. I thought that he was gonna die there, and I was like, good, bye. And that would leave us something more. But yeah, he's a good villain. That's why I want him dead. That's why he's a good villain. Like if I want a character dead, that's because they're good at what they do, and I like his character. So that's why I want him to die. I'm thinking he's probably going to do something crazy and like take over they'll probably like, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to the original actor for Marcus.
Oh.
Be like, no, I'm not really. I did this in order to infiltrate, and they take the stupid thing off, and then it's back to him. I think that would be kind of cool, like a weird Doctor Who situation. Because then nobody would know who it is except for Sue. Everybody else would be like, oh, it's somebody else.
Or one of the atheists that he meets is actually a Mithraic and took his old face. Face off. Sorry. I had to.
Oh, man. It would be interesting.
Because it just reminds me of like how that moment where he truly becomes like a devout Mithraic when he has a fight against himself. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed that fight choreography. And it's like the physical interpretation of like two selves are battling it out, and one will like come out as the victor. Like I think there's a little bit more to do with his duality.
Yeah.
Even though that he's completely quote unquote over the edge, and I'm excited to see like what he ate Mother's eye. What does that mean? Does he have powers now? Is the voice going to come back to him? And I feel like there's a little bit of that. The voice will be a little Deus Ex Machina for him, where he's going to be in something he should not get away with, and then he's going to get away with it somehow because the voice.
It would be interesting if he starts seeing Campion, like
the first Campion or the kid. Ooh, yeah.
That would be interesting.
And I think that also talks a little bit of what we were talking about with the Paul Demption and the Catholicism of like the original Campion was a Mithraic, and then he later on became an atheist, and then decided to create this like mission to save humanity, which I think is really cool. Where you have like which I think is something that, again, I think that's what they were trying to do with the sequel series of Star Wars, of like with Finn, of like, you came from the First Order, now you will lead a rebellion, where it's like you come from the thing that you realize you must overthrow.
But going off of the Star Wars thing, I think it would be interesting to kill Marcus like they should have killed Finn, to give his like death an actual purpose. Like, he was going to do a thing in that second movie, and then they were like, he's going to have a purpose for it, and then that was taken away. And then in the last movie, he was just kind
Nothing
of there.
happens.
Like,
Yeah.
that was my, Star Wars tangents real quick. That's my biggest problem with Finn, is like, it felt like the only reason that he was in those movies was to get BB-8 to Rey. And then get Rey to the first, Rey to
He
the
was like
Resistance.
C-3PO.
Yeah, like that's basically all he's there for, because after that he does something stupid. He and what's her face?
Rose Tico?
Yeah, Rose. They go on a mission that does absolutely nothing the entire movie. They set out to do this one thing, and
they don't do it.
nothing ever happens with it. It completely fails, and they literally end up with right back where they started. And so I was like, well, that's kind of pointless. And then that last movie, they are just like not like there half the time, and it's, I don't know, it's really bizarre.
It was a lot of fan service and not a lot of story service.
Yeah. So I hope they do something different with him. I would like to see.
That being said, with Marcus's death, if he's truly Mithraic, maybe he converts the rest of the atheists to see.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe he can bring them. So even if Marcus
martyr.
dies, there are more Mithraic out there, instead of just like 7 people left.
And that being said, we didn't see what happened with the rest of the Mithraic. They could be like, we're the true soul believers, and then like there's now this sect that's devoted to Marcus.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
And because then you have interreligious, battles and stuff like that, and then we get further and further, probably getting close to the atheism. Who knows? It's like the conversations that the show can have are like just boundless, because they just opened it so well. And something that I want Mother to somehow get powers back. I don't know how.
She's gonna have to kill Marcus to get those powers back, unless the atheists also have another mother. That would be interesting if they have their own mother. And then Marcus sends Mama after Mother.
What if it's called Daughter?
Oh my gosh, that'd be super cool.
And I want to see what's happening with the snake, because I don't know if you remember it, but in the last episode, Paul sees like the cave drawings, and the snake starts moving.
Yeah.
But you see that.
But again, I think that was the voice,
yes,
messing with poor Paul as he burns metal. But anyway.
Yeah, which allows him to see what the reality is, which is like, there is a mysticism within the science, which I'm like, oh my God, how are they doing this? Which I love, because the writer was talking about how, like, the age old, analogy of like, magic is just technology we can't explain. If we brought a cell phone back, 300 years, they'd be like, it's magic. They wouldn't understand it. So it's like burning metal and turning it into a message is a technology that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
And I like that understanding. But like, you see in the cave drawing, there is a version of like the lander that Mother and Father came in with 6 little dots, possibly representing the children, going towards Earth. And it's like this idea, like, maybe they go back to Earth.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm kind of thinking everything's a circle.
Circle, exactly.
So
and
it's
then,
they're going to destroy this planet, and then they have to go to another planet. And so it's just one big circle after circle after circle. Just like the snake.
Or Boris, baby. And it's, I think that idea is definitely supported with the devolving humans, which was super cool, because you saw that they were Neanderthal and they were originated from the planet, which I was just like, one of my absolute favorite lines, and I don't know if you have one, so I hate to put you on the spot unless you do.
Oh, no, I don't
my
have other than
one of my favorite my favorite line, I think, of the show is when Father says to Mother, is like, there is a history of this planet we are deeply ignorant of, or I fear we are deeply ignorant of. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, and that's the thing where I think a lot of, it's kind of like that same fear that I think I Am Legend try to have, but since I Am Legend's a little bit more actiony and not so scary, that most horror films try to do of like, you're not alone on this planet.
Mhm.
Like you just thought you were alone, and then after this arc crash, now you're starting to see these creatures. Maybe the environment changed, and now these creatures are coming towards you for some reason. Maybe something's happening in the tropical zone, and now like climate change. You know, the 12 years that the androids and Campion and the rest of the people were on this planet affected just this like butterfly affected the environment in such a way where now these devolved things are coming, and you know, we don't know where these worms are. We don't know where these holes came from, but now it's kind of like actually how I think Game of Thrones, the book opens, and it opens with like a scene with the White Walker. And the White Walker, it's actually after the fact that Daenerys' eggs hatch is because it released magic back into the world. And so like I'm over the moon about this show, and I'm excited for anything that kind of happens with it at this point. So
I see on like the HBO website there's a comic, and I'm like, is that good? Should I read that comic? I think I may, just because it looks
for
cool.
sure. Then you got to listen to the podcast. Though,
I do need to listen to the podcast. Yeah,
it's cool because they bring in like planetologists who talk about.
So it's
like,
not just them just chatting about the episode.
The creator Ridley Scott never makes an appearance. Sorry, spoilers. But
it's okay.
Yeah,
you
they bring
can
in
spoil
like
a podcast.
they bring in someone who works with AI, someone who works with planetology, someone who works with religion, someone who understands the politics of weapons of mass destruction. So it's very interesting. They just talk about concepts that the show brings up, and then bring in experts to talk about those things.
That's cool.
It's pretty fun.
I forgot. Let's kind of go through the cast real quick. Just because I mean everybody did a phenomenal job, and I'm gonna butcher names here. I apologize. We have Amanda Collin as Mother, Abukar Salim as Father, Travis Fimmel as Marcus. This one's hard. Niam Algar, is that how one would say it? Niam.
I think like Niall Haran, but Niall. Yeah, I can see that.
As Sue. I like Winta McGrath. I think that's a pretty dope name. Winta as Cambion. Felix Jameson as Paul. And then Jordan Lowram as Tempest. Everybody else I could care less about.
Dang, no, they did a good job.
They did a good job. But I mean, character-wise, they don't really do anything. Like, of everybody, like, Tempest has, story elements that are unique to her. Paul does, Cambion does, Sue, Marcus, Mother, Father. Really, nobody else really has anything.
I will say, I did like Mr. Cosmo Jarvis, who played Campion Sturgis, the original Campion.
Yes.
When he has to send Mother away, and she says, "I feel like everything's terrible," and he's like, "Oh, that's sadness. I'm sorry for that." And I was like, "Oh, like it's like I apologize for giving you the ability to feel sadness that you will never see me again." And it's like, holy crap! Like
they do such a good job. Like just everything in this show, like the story elements are on point. Visuals look great. The acting is great. The score is freaking awesome.
Oh my god! Okay, I did not skip the opening ever.
Oh, dude, well, I don't know why you would. Like it's kind of long as openings go. I mean, especially for stuff nowadays, it's like 45 seconds. It's not short. But it was just like, oh man, yeah, that's good.
But then like it's kind of like, and that's the thing. One thing I really loved about the Mother character, like I felt like, oh my gosh, she's so scary. But like the first half hour of the pilot, you just feel so like she's willing to do anything for her cubs. And I felt so like comforted to see that character. And then seeing the opening, it just felt that same kind of like there's a motherly nurturing feel while you're seeing nuclear bombs go off.
Yeah.
In the opening. And so it's just like, it's a good conflicting feeling of like, this is how the world kind of ends. And what happens when we kind of break open this door of like new ideas of religion and artificial intelligence and faster than light travel, these kind of things. It's like, whoa, where do we go from here? that I thought the opening song in some way complements the visuals that you see.
Definitely.
That's by Ben Frost, and I've been listening to that theme song every once in a while just to be like, oh, I need it. Like, that's the one thing I love about good TV shows. The sad feeling is you'll never watch it for the first time again.
Yeah.
And this show is in spades.
Oh.
What else do we need to cover before we wrap this up, baby?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. I mean, like, we both like the show.
Yes.
We both talked the things that people that we didn't really like in the show. Because other than that, I mean, we didn't really talk about things like elements of the show that we didn't like, because I don't think there's a lot.
I mean, I'll say this for people who may be getting into sci-fi for the first time, or like maybe unsure like what the show is. Like, if you're looking for something that's gonna like kind of say like, because this happened, this is the cause and effect of it. It's a little bit more trying to have a discussion with you. I wouldn't even go as far to say an intellectual discussion, but it's asking you questions that I think you have a lot more fun living in.
Yeah.
Versus knowing like, okay, well then what? You know, like what happens if robots teach kids how to live? It's like, well, this is how it would be. Or it's like, what if, you know, the most nurturing, caring, you know, thing on this planet is also the most powerful, destructive thing, which was reprogrammed for good, but also has the ability to be evil. But what would you do if these artificial intelligence started actually working better and they could start feeling like that turmoil that father has, like, I want to take care of the kids, but being with mother makes me angry, and that impedes on my ability to hang out to protect the kids.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, it's just, I was like, oh, and again, what I was talking about earlier in the non-spoilery of, it's just the power dynamic of the father feeling displaced that he cannot provide as well as mother can, which I think is a universal concept. But even then, how she says, I met with Campion, our creator, and he downloaded files into my system.
And he was like,
I was like,
you had intercourse. And she was like, yeah. And
it's like, and he's just like, even an android could feel betrayed. And it's that, this is the thing that I love about Android or artificial intelligence done really well, is they show more human insight than the humans do.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like The Walking Dead. It's like, oh, the zombies aren't afraid. It's like, you should be afraid of the humans, where it's like, the androids are the ones that you should be like really seeing, like they're having to discover what these feelings are for the first time.
Yeah. Like,
and
most of them are more human than half of the humans on the show. And it kind of shows, because like they do kind of raise Cambion as a android
Wolf.
almost.
Yeah,
they do raise him as Wolf. So yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say something about wolves. Like,
well,
no,
you saw in the first episode.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, like I was waiting for somebody, you know, to be like, oh, we wolves. You know, like you get it like one time, and that's it. And I was just like,
and it's funny because I think I remember.
But then they
trailer,
mentioned Romulus, and I was like, oh, there's a wolf.
Oh, he is. I forgot.
So it's like, who's raised by wolves? Is it Cambion that is raised by wolves, or is it Paul, who are raised by wolves in sheep's clothing? Or is it the human race that is being raised by a
Kepler 22b?
Yeah, never mind. Forget it. Yeah, I don't care about the humans. Yeah, it's like, but, which wolves, or who's being raised by what?
I mean, and also the thing, I don't know if I missed it, but I didn't see it in the show, but I remember waiting for this line to happen in the series. That happened in the teaser, where you have mother's like, let me tell you about the story about the three little pigs. And then you hear Marcus's line in the teaser say, like, you know, that wolf she tells you about, she's the wolf. And I don't think that line happened in the show.
Yeah, no, I don't think they do that, because she tells them the story about the three little pigs. But yeah, I don't think she I don't remember. I should rewatch it again.
Yeah, I actually don't mind rewatching. That's how much I love the show. But like, there is that. I remember when she was telling that story and she blew. And you're like, that's how she killed people. That's really scary. But no, yeah. I mean, I could talk days for this show, but I won't torture our listeners for that. Wasn't that wonderful? Boys and girls and kids and adults and everyone in between and outside of those parameters. I don't know. I kept trying to do a Josh thing and it just didn't work out. Josh, he's listening to this, and I'm sorry for that. I feel like I've betrayed your trust by making fun of you when you're not even on the episode. But everyone, yeah, I feel like we could have went on and on talking about the show and went each episode by episode. I hope it wasn't so over everyone's heads and we were going so far into the theory, and it's a little bit of a different episode than what we normally do with like the production, the brief synopsis, and all that stuff. It was just a chance for us to get our nerd on, and it was really hard for me to not cuss. I'll tell you that right now. But we're doing this cool kind of collaboration thing where Josh will do his parts of the show and then I'll do the nerd on part of the show. So it was a fun collaboration. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was the show. That's all we got. And it's fun to do this outside of the normal recording session. So if you want more episodes like this, let us know. It doesn't have to be with me as the host. I know I can get quite overwhelming. If you want shows specifically with other hosts, that's like, maybe they do something about this. Let us know. Contact us. Don't be afraid to put your voice out there. That's what we did. That was why we made the podcast. Was we were putting our voices out there, and people listened, and people heard, and people liked it. And so, if you want a specific episode of a show or something that we're covering here, we at the time of this recording, Mandalorian is upon us, so we might be in the midst of recording that by the time you listen to this. But yeah, and that's kind of the wonderful thing about Nerd On is that it's always a growing thing. And just like Raised by Wolves, I can't wait to see where we go with it. So I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope everyone is taking care of each other. What I want to do is make sure that we talk about the Patreon, nerdon.tv/Patreon, nerdon.tv/Discord to join our Discord community. It's growing all the time. But also nerdon.tv, just see everything. It's got the links to our Discord, to our Patreon, to our YouTube channels, to our Twitch, to the podcast, to our other podcasts family, which is the Capes Crusaders. And I want everyone, to hopefully, if this hasn't inspired you to watch Raised by Wolves yet, but if it did, if you already have watched it, then we did a good job talking about some of the things that you might have liked. I hope everyone enjoys that show or enjoyed this show as much as I enjoyed making it. And I hope everyone's doing well, taking care of each other. Feel free, please, to contact for any information more of future episodes that we're going to be doing. Who knows? But yeah, I'm kind of prattling on. I just want to wish people the best. Really, that's kind of what it is. So without further ado, you know the drill. As always, nerd on.
Ending broadcast.